Hello beauties, it's Felicia and Rowena from Beauty Within. Welcome to another episode on Clean Academy. We love to talk all things skincare and finding your beauty from the inside out.
And for this episode, we're going to be talking about stress and acne because everyone goes through stress, right? Right. And it's easy to fall into a negative mindset or anxiety-stricken, which can make us neglect things like our health, which can show up on our skin as things like dullness, uneven skin tone, wrinkles, and acne.
Typically, when we feel stressed, we can see some changes happening to our bodies. For example, you might feel a loss of appetite, restlessness or fatigue, insomnia, upset stomach, tense muscles, and even rapid heartbeat.
What out of those would you say like when you get stressed triggers?
I lose my appetite and I get restless.
I think it's like because you're so concerned up here, you don't want to eat.
It's like a tornado in your head
that
you can't focus on anything else. You can't fall asleep, you can't eat, you just can't be a person.
So as for mental and emotional responses, you might find yourself getting anxious, irritated, maybe you feel even more lonely, like it heightens those moods and feelings. It's like a spiral. It's the tornado that Dorothy is swept up in with the cow, the house, everything. Her hair's a mess and you're like, what is this life? So there is a lot of changes that are happening to the body, but the one particular aspect that we want to focus on today is our skin. For example, if you have sensitive skin, this is where you'll tend to realize that the flare-ups, eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, specific to you will be like, boom.
Exhibit A.
Yeah.
It's a little rough.
And some people, like, you know, when you're nervous and stressed, like it comes up as splotches on the neck, on the chest.
And if you have oily and acne-prone skin types, you might be familiar with encountering excess sebum production or a few extra breakouts every time you stress out.
So you can see that stress can affect pretty much every skin type there is, but why does it happen?
The answer is internal. Your brain and your hormones.
Brain and hormones, brain and hormones,
brain and hormones. It's like milk and cereal, brain and hormones.
Yeah.
Cereal, milk, brain and
In case you didn't know, our brain is a very complex and smart organ, and we tend to underestimate just how powerful it can be because many responses we get are the brain's way of protecting us and keeping us alive.
Remember the fight or flight response when you run into a stressful situation? You're probably familiar with the telltale signs. Rapid breathing, shakiness or clamminess, cold sweat, and the urge to fight through or run away. I mean, that's fell on any given day.
Any day. Clammy hands.
So how does this happen? When you're stressed, your body automatically enters into defense mode and produces cortisol, adrenaline, and other hormones.
And most of these stress hormones are released into your bloodstream by your adrenal glands, which are located above the kidneys, and they're like two little caps. Bling, bling, bling.
And they will continue to work as long as the body continues to view your stressful situation as a potential threat, even though you're probably not in a fight or flight mode like our ancestors may have been, hunting and gathering out in the wilderness, fighting wildebeests.
For actual survival. But isn't it funny that the body registers that as harm? And that's why we say, you know, healthy doses of stress is fine. It actually keeps us motivated. It keeps us like wanting to do more. Yeah, but it's when it's prolonged, it's unhealthy, that's when it really can like take a downturn. And there's 4 major ways that it can really affect our skin.
Number 1, it compromises the skin barrier.
For those who didn't know, your skin barrier is what essentially protects you from the outside world. Things like the dust, pollutants, sun UV rays, and bacteria, just to name a few.
Normally, our skin barrier regulates itself by keeping these harmful factors out and keeping moisture in. But when your body produces too much cortisol, oil production slows down and moisture from the deeper layers of the skin will evaporate at an increased rate.
And since the skin barrier is depleted now of its natural source of moisture, the skin can take on a shriveled, dull-looking appearance that's also irritated, inflamed, red, all that nasty stuff. So think of it essentially as this wetsuit that's over us that's actually keeping us from harm's way. And when that's broken, you're just swimming naked, my friends.
Then we have the other side of the spectrum where you might actually be producing more oils, which causes breakouts you see after prolonged periods of stress. Especially if you're acne prone or have oily skin, excess cortisol can cause your sebaceous glands to basically get into overdrive.
They're like,
help.
blah, 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 like producing all these.
Danger. It's like the fire alarm. Danger, danger.
And we know that anything in excess is no good. So especially when it comes to oil, if you have excess sebum on the face, it can be prone to clogged pores, which means that you're increasing the likelihood of getting breakouts and acne.
If you already have skin conditions like eczema or psoriasis, high levels of cortisol can unfortunately trigger flare-ups and itching. This is because high cortisol levels from chronic and ongoing stress can lead to increased levels of inflammation throughout the body.
And inflammation is an immune response that signals to our bodies to protect itself from any sign of danger. And since our body is already reacting to high levels of stress, you can kind of see why inflammation is also triggered. And I think just our habits when we are stressed further create extra troubles, which then spreads it like wildfire, and then you're in this vicious loop. Which then leads us to the final point, is that it might cause you to form scars. This is an indirect cause, but it can definitely happen in trying to cope with stress. There might be times where you just have the urge to pick at things, you're like feeling on your face, you're like meh. Or some people I know during college, for me especially, they'd like pick at their hair, and then they have bald patches as well as acne. And I think our lifestyle habits just go down the drain. Like we're not hygienic because we're not taking time to take care of ourselves. So like the dirt and bacteria festers, and this loop, my friends.
What are your defaults when you're that stressed? Do you pick your acne when you're stressed?
Because then I'll be like this, just thinking about stuff, and then
it's just
feel
there.
little bumps.
And you're not even thinking of picking, you're just doing it by default.
Yeah. Or in the shower, you know, shower thoughts, and then you're like, oh, this, why is it here? Go out and it's like bleeding. So I definitely can relate to the picking, but it's not for everyone. So what about you?
I think it's just a sense of control, because it seems like your life is so out of control that you just want to control specific things. For me, it's like controlling my diet and what I eat. This is when I was younger.
And
Stress
I guess,
eat is a real thing too.
True. It's like either extremes again.
Yeah.
It's like stress eat, overeating, or like not eating at all. And like if it's not food, maybe you want control over people, and then it impacts your relationships. You become like a crazy person.
It's like everything.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And then that affects you mentally, which further produces more cortisol.
Seriously.
Which further affects your skin.
For girls, you know, the hormones and the regulation of our periods and our cycle is also very important for clear skin. If you have hormonal imbalances, the stress, cortisol also impacts that a lot. So this is why we always say, and we like to emphasize on the channel, that you want to find activities to help alleviate those thoughts. So it's not like, you know, meditation solves acne. It's actually helping with like the way that you perceive the world and deal with it.
And it's like how one of them can be the domino of many of the other things. Negatively, it can also be positively, right? So it's like, again, not meditation equals clear skin, but meditation makes you be more calm, makes you be less stressed, and in turn, eventually it'll trigger into having.
And then lower cortisol levels, and then it brings you back to balance, and then you're good again.
One very specific memory comes to mind. It's like whenever you go to New Jersey or Brooklyn and you look at New York City from across the river, you're like, wait, I live there? And then my worries and everything is there. And like, I forget sometimes that I live in like such a beautiful city when I'm in my own head and focused on my own problems and my own stresses and anxieties. But when you take a step back and you look at the city versus being in the city, it's like, oh,
I mean,
life is not
you
that
just
bad.
explained what meditation tries to achieve too. Looking at your problems from an external point of view.
Like an observer of your thoughts.
Yeah.
And also doing things with your hands. So like arts and crafts, or even cooking, or just getting out of your normal routine of like, if you're always on your computer, and if you can inject something new. Yes. And if you need, reach out to a loved one or a friend, or even just watch your favorite show, like a K-drama, to be happy with them, to be sad with them, just to feel like you're connected in some way.
Also, part of the stress or what we put on ourselves is the pressure we put on ourselves. No one else is telling you to do that, so be okay to actually give your time to relax. I don't think many of us give enough time for that.
Make time to do nothing.
So you know we're big on skin and skincare, so what are the things we can do topically?
So when our skin's already stressed and irritated, it's best to reach for gentle products. As we mentioned earlier, if you're facing irritation, redness, and dryness, it's likely that your skin barrier is already damaged.
And in order to rebuild that skin barrier, you want to incorporate skin nourishing ingredients like skin-friendly oils, including jojoba, squalane, rosehip, camellia, which are some of our favorites, and also ingredients that are really high and rich in omega fatty acids and lipids, because those are actually what join our skin
It's
cells
what makes
together.
this possible.
Yes. And then of course ceramides and also niacinamide is a great ingredient too.
For dry and dehydrated skin, you'll also want to double down on hydrating your skin to keep as much moisture as possible. Look for water-based serums and moisturizers that contain sodium hyaluronate or hyaluronic acid, glycerin, and panthenol.
And then seal it all off with a basic or plain, but in the best way possible, rich, creamy moisturizer. If you're the type that's experiencing like inflammation, redness, breakout prone skin, maybe you want to focus on incorporating calming ingredients as well, like allantoin, colloidal oatmeal, honey is really great. And then our personal favorites include things like green tea, Centella asiatica, the whole family of it. And for inflamed pimples, it's best to kind of just spot treat that particular area as opposed to singeing the entire face, yeah.
And as always, regardless if you're using chemical exfoliants or not, don't forget to apply your sunscreen to help protect your precious, precious skin against the very damaging UV rays.
Yes, because the sun will make any sort of irritation on your skin much worse.
So I have very dry, dehydrated skin that can be quite dull. Fel has more oily, acne-prone skin that I feel like most of the world's population seem to have these days. Yeah, so Fel, why don't you start with your routine?
Okay, yeah. The good thing about BIOSSANCE products is that they work across the board, no matter what like skin type you have, because we both experience dullness in different ways, and we want to treat things like hyperpigmentation as well. Hers is more sun-induced, mine's from post-acne. But what I've been really loving, and on the train of hydration, is first the BIOSSANCE Squalane Hyaluronic Toning Mist. So, if you guys have watched any of the videos on our own channel, I love spritz toners. We tried like the dual phase ones a lot, but the cool thing about this is that it's got that kind of suppleness that just like really softens the skin.
Because usually a lot of toners, they just absorb right into your skin and it disappears.
Yeah.
But this is there. I'm here for you.
Yes.
I am your barrier against the outside world.
So this is one of the most like nourishing without being oily toning mists ever. BIOSSANCE products contain squalane, which is a very fast absorbing oil. So if you have acne prone or oily skin, this will work just fine. And I think that's like a myth, you know, oily skin people can't use oils. Yep. We've long put that to bed. And yes, this is great. On top of the squalane, there's also glycerin, which is super hydrating. There's panthenol, which helps with skin building, sodium hyaluronate, and hydrolyzed sodium hyaluronate, which just means that it's smaller and so it can really help sink into the deeper layers. There's also green algae extract, and any sort of algae is one of the best humectants because it's like from the sea. Just think from the sea is great at
Kelp
hydrating.
on face.
Yes.
Great. My pick is their squalane antioxidant cleansing oil. It contains squalane, rosehip seed oil, oat kernel oil, and botanical oils like orange, lavender, evening primrose. Compared to most cleansing oils that I've used, this is one of the most luxurious oil textures. It's more watery than it is oily. And this is what I mean by like the luxurious texture.
It is super lightweight.
It's like an oil you can just leave on your face.
Yeah.
And I think squalane as the main ingredient for a cleansing oil, it's one of my favorite lightweight, ultra hydrating oils.
I just worked it into my skin like an oil.
You can probably do that too.
Oh, it feels so good.
It does.
Yes, if you guys haven't come across or you know much about squalane, we actually find it produced naturally in our sebum, as well as things like fatty acids, triglycerides, cholesterol. And yeah, it's probably one of my favorite types of oils.
Yes. So what I've learned is the days where you want nothing to do with your skincare routine at night because you're just so tired, you're just so done with the world, those are the nights where you should try your best. Muster up as much courage as you have, as much energy as you have to get it done. And like using a cleansing oil during this time would be amazing because you do need to work it into your skin for a minute. And then the process of doing that can help you unwind, slow down, and just be with your own thoughts in a way that's not like mumble jumbled.
Like break it all down while it's actually breaking down my makeup.
Yes.
Who knew that cleansing could be so deep? So now moving on to a product that I've been loving, especially for all you acne prone, is the squalane and lactic acid resurfacing night serums. For people who haven't tried it, resurfacing can be kind of like a scary word, but your skin essentially resurfaces itself. Every 28 to like 31 days, depending on your age, your skin will push out the old dead skin and come up with the bing bing, baby youthful glowing skin. So I was really blown away by this because, you know, chemical exfoliants can take a learning curve to get into depending on the type of AHA. But the fact that it's formulated with the squalane and the texture of it, it's like a milky gel serum that does not feel like you're even using any sort of chemical exfoliant. Yeah. It's not overly oily, it just sinks into the skin beautifully. It's so smooth. So this may be used 2 to 3 times a week, depending on how your skin reacts to these ingredients, can be life-changing.
On days that my skin is feeling dull and it needs a little bit of a
pick-me-up
pizzazz, I've been reaching for this Squalane Vitamin C Dark Spot Serum. And as we just mentioned earlier, all of BIOSSANCE's serums have this beautiful milky texture that you rarely ever see with vitamin C serums.
Or serums in general.
Yeah, it's lightweight enough that it just so quickly absorbs into your skin, but it's also still there. It's kind of like the mist, right? Like it absorbs into your skin, but you feel that your skin is protected. And that's one of the best feelings ever. There's no irritation, there's no sensitivity. It just feels like I'm applying like a hydrating serum.
Yeah.
Really, with like brightening effects. So in this serum, there's 10% vitamin C derivative. It's 3-O-ethyl ascorbic acid, and it is so gentle. And another superstar ingredient in here is the white shiitake, which is like a brand new approach to lightening discoloration. And there's also licorice root extract as well as sodium hyaluronate. So it's as brightening as it is hydrating.
Yeah. So for acne-prone skin, when you're stressed out, when it's breaking out, inflamed, BIOSSANCE has a squalane and tea tree balancing oil. And tea tree is great for acne-prone skin because it's an antimicrobial, it's anti-inflammatory, and small doses of it when formulated can really help with things like redness and controlling the bacteria that causes acne. I like to use it either in a moisturizer, like a few drops, or afterwards. You know, some people like using it before their moisturizer. Just chill out, guys. You can use it however you like. You know, don't add any more stress. We're all good. So if you want like a dose of, maybe it's the winter time, and make your moisturizer a little bit more like cuddlesome, nourishing, with that added boost of anti-inflammatory, antibacterial from the tea tree, that is really great. You have another oil.
I do. I have their OG. I think this is what put them on the map. This is the Squalane and Vitamin C Rose Oil. There's mastic gum, which is a plant resin that's rich in antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. The mask rose flower extract, which is rich in antioxidants and have anti-inflammatory properties for that stressed out skin. And the vitamin C derivative tetrahexyldexyl ascorbate, which is a stable form of vitamin C that can gently give your skin brightening capabilities without the irritation. And when paired with a moisturizer, this is the Squalane Omega Repair Cream, is just bing, match made in heaven. Yeah. Especially when it's winter time.
So these are just some of Ro and I's favorite picks from the BIOSSANCE line. Obviously they have like way more products, but we thought these would be our go-to for sensitive, irritated. You want to repair that skin barrier back to health, back to life.
We hope you enjoyed this episode on stressed skin. Thank you so much to Clean Academy for having us. And if you guys want to see more of the two of us on the interwebs, you can find us at Beauty Within. See you guys very soon.